Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavari Paschacha Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, welcome to our study of Nectar of Devotion. So today we'll be studying chapter 2, the first part of chapter 2. And last week we discussed the 4 characteristics that were rewarded during Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. And we spoke about the Moksha Lagurtakrit, how the concept of liberation seems insignificant in the greatness, in the presence of the greatness of the happiness from Bhava Bhakti. It means that Bhava Bhakti is, the happiness is so extraordinary that the happiness from becoming free from birth and death, old age and disease, seems insignificant. It's almost unimaginable based on our experience. But we gave the example of, a very bright flashlight in the dead of night can show you a very important path. But that same flashlight in the presence of the sun has no meaning, no impact. Like that, this Moksha Lagutrakrit manifests. That happiness so inspiring, so strong, that it seems insignificant. Then we spoke about Sudurlabha, that this Bhava Bhakti is very rarely achieved because it cannot be achieved by one's own efforts. It can only come by the mercy of Krishna. So we may try to do so many things, but it comes from only Krishna's mercy. And Krishna is reluctant to give it because he wants to test. He gives it to those who have purity of heart. Because when one enters the realm of Bhava Bhakti and ultimately Prema Bhakti, as we'll see, Krishna gives himself to his devotees. And so Krishna will test us with many opulences, many different temptations, living in very beautiful palaces, having extraordinary powers, great beauty. He'll tempt us with these opulences just to see. He's not trying to trick us, but just to see what is our real desire. And so it is rarely achieved. But Jiva Goswami guides us not to worry. If one has intense desire, an intense hankering, a greed, lolium, for this Bhava Bhakti, then Krishna is eager to actually give it. So we must define our goal, and we'll talk a lot about that today, and then set our intention accordingly. Then in the Prema Bhakti comes this Sandharana Visheshatma, this extraordinarily, incalculably condensed bliss. Again, we see happiness. And it is so intense happiness that nothing can enter the heart. It's like a dense metal ball. You cannot enter anything into it because the molecules are so tightly packed together, nothing else can enter. Like that, in the heart of a pure devotee in Prema Bhakti, nothing else can enter because the happiness is so complete, so ultimately satisfying that nothing else can enter. Compared to the happiness of the entire material world, multiplied trillion-fold, it doesn't account for even a small drop of the happiness from the ocean of Prema Bhakti. And then Sri Krishna Karshani, this controlling Krishna. This controlling Krishna, we see that Krishna falls to the order of his devotees in love. And we discussed so many examples last time. One more vivid example we heard in the classes, Srila Haridas Thakur. When he was being whipped in the marketplace, 22 different marketplaces, he was being whipped. And we may ask why Krishna didn't come to help. As soon as Durvasa Muni was attacked by the fiery demon, Ambarish Maharaj was attacked by the fiery demon created by Durvasa Muni, Sudarshan Chakra came and destroyed that demon. So when these people were beating Srila Haridas Thakur, why Sudarshan Chakra did not come? Actually, Krishna sent his Sudarshana Chakra, but the chakra would not move. And so how the chakra could not follow the order of Krishna, that is perplexing. But we see the Sri Krishna Karshani in play here. That Haridas Thakur, while he was being beaten due to his extraordinary humbleness and compassion, he was begging Krishna to forgive those who were beating him. And he was crying out, please forgive them. They're just doing in ignorance, following the orders of their master. And so the Sudarshana Chakra knows that the devotee is asking to forgive. And Krishna is telling the chakra to destroy. And so whose order did the chakra listen to? Ultimately, the chakra knows that the desire of Krishna is to fulfill the desire of his devotees. That is his ultimate satisfaction. And so the chakra did not come. And in the Mahaprakash Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Haridas Thakur, I had no choice, but I had to come myself. And I climbed onto your back and accepted all of those lashes. And then he removed his chadar and he shows the scars on his back. So we see this concept of Sri Krishna Karshani. So there are, again, 3 categories of pure devotional service, and within them, these 6 characteristics are awarded. So the first is in sadhana bhakti, this devotional service in practice. And practice being the very key word we'll discuss more today. Then in bhava bhakti, one obtains kleshagni and subhadha, plus moksha lagrutakrit and sudarlabha. So this devotional service in ecstasy, This is Bhava Bhakti, devotional service in ecstasy. This is the budding stage of Krishna Prema. That is the next. And then we have Prema Bhakti, which includes all 6. So it is 2 plus 2 plus 2. As we move from Sadhana Bhakti to Bhava Bhakti to Prema Bhakti. In Prema Bhakti, it is pure love of God. One obtains all 6 qualities. So our goal in our devotional service is to climb this ladder from Sadhana Bhakti to Bhava Bhakti to Prema Bhakti. And now the obvious question comes. We maybe have some good understanding now of why these wonderful characteristics are awarded. And the next question would then be, how? How do I move from one to the other? What is actually sadhana bhakti? What is bhava bhakti? And what is prema bhakti? So these 2 questions we're going to answer for the next 17 chapters. What is it and how to get there? So for those interested, we'll carry on. So actually this whole book is written for that purpose. That's the purpose of the whole movement that Srila Prabhupada established. To bring us to this platform of Prema Bhakti. Because it is so sweet. It is the ultimate goal one can achieve. And so to firmly fix in our heart, what is the ultimate goal I can achieve? Srila Rupa Goswami is presenting this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Srila Prabhupada is presented to us as Nectar of Devotion to inspire us to achieve the greatest of all things. So we have to understand what it is in order to create the desire in the heart, and then we have to know how to get there. So that's what we'll be discussing now. So, this greatness of pure devotional service. Who is eligible to come to pure devotional service? What is the qualification to begin pure devotional service? Rupa Goswami has already glorified it so extravagantly in chapter 1 and given us such great insight into its beauty, its sweetness, its potency. And now we go even further to say that the only qualification, and I emphasize only qualification, for devotional service is some attraction or taste. It's extraordinary. The most powerful process of pure devotional service, it's available to anyone who has some attraction, some desire, some interest, some taste. No intellectual requirements, no age requirements, income requirements, not even a level of purification is required. No other realm do we have such opportunity. If I have attraction to go work for, some great company, can I just, I want to work for you, let me in? No. If I want to go meet some famous movie star or cricketer, can I just say, I have some attraction for this personality, I want to meet you? Is that qualification? I want to go meet the president or whoever. No. But Krishna says, you just need some attraction to start. And ultimately it will happen. So to get this unlimited bliss and happiness, more than contained within the entire material universe, it starts with attraction. And so now we may ask the question, then where does the attraction come from? How do we start? So Rupa Goswami explains that it is devotional service. By performing some devotional service, it leads to some attraction or taste. So the taste comes from devotional service, from bhakti. It likely means that at the start, it came from some previous life. And then how to increase the taste? Well, the taste leads it to perform devotional service. And the result of doing devotional service is more taste, a higher attraction. And the more attraction leads us to do more devotional service. And like this, the cycle continues. So the result of bhakti is more taste for bhakti, and the result of more taste for bhakti is more bhakti. And this is a self-perpetuating cycle. So once the little taste is acquired, the cycle begins. And thus Srila Prabhupada said, remember back to Nectar of Instruction, that one will be dragged to success. Because once we enter this self-perpetuating cycle, it'll just build on each other. So we just have to start. And the ball is rolling. Just like if you have a giant boulder at the top of a hill. I like to use the example of if you start with a small snow mound and you start rolling it down the hill, it acquires more and more snow as it rolls down the hill. And by the time it gets down to the bottom of the hill, it's a giant ball of snow. You don't have to do anything. You just got to start. So like that, this bhakti. We saw last week a very dangerous cycle of suffering. How when one, fueled by avidya, begins to develop sinful desires, this bijam, it leads to sinful activities, which then results in suffering and also increasing our tendency to sin, which then increases our desire and then increases the actual sinful activity, and that cycle continues. So that was a perpetual cycle of suffering. But now we see the self-perpetuating cycle of bliss. So this attraction, which is the qualification for devotional service, it begins with doing some devotional service, and that leads to some attraction, and that leads to more devotional service. So no one can take to devotional service without some taste or attraction. Otherwise, why would somebody do it? Right? Why would somebody do devotional service unless there was some attraction or taste? That is the qualification. So now the obvious question is, well, how to enter into this cycle? If the taste comes from devotional service, and the opportunity to do devotional service requires taste, I'm stuck. If I don't have the taste, I can't do bhakti. If I don't have bhakti, I can't get the taste. So now, how to start? And this comes to help us understand. It comes by the causeless mercy of a devotee. Yes, I cannot do bhakti without some taste, and I cannot get taste without bhakti. But it can begin this circular, self-perpetuating cycle by the causeless mercy of some devotee. And Prabhupada explains this agnata sukriti. This agnata sukriti is that we perform some devotional service even unknowingly. And by unknowingly performing some bhakti, the taste will slowly emerge. So the pilot flying Srila Prabhupada around the world, he doesn't know he's doing bhakti. But it is direct devotional service to a pure devotee, enabling Srila Prabhupada to preach in a new locale. You take an orange and you offer it to the Lord. The farmer who grew that orange gets some agnata sukriti because they performed the work to grow that orange. The storekeeper who sold the orange also gets some agnata sukriti because they facilitated the offering of the orange. They had no idea that you, out of the thousands of customers, were going to offer that orange to the Lord. But still, they get some credit. The seed then becomes planted. So this agnata sukriti is the planting of the seed in the heart that will eventually sprout. So this unknowingly yielded service, it slowly adds to more service. And slowly, that attraction will spark, and it will lead to direct service, to knowingly doing service. But it starts with even unknowingly. And once we make an active commitment to bhakti, then we enter the sadhana bhakti stage. So we may unknowingly do several things by the causeless mercy of other devotees. And it may take many lifetimes to sprout. But eventually, this Agnata Sukriti will sprout into full-fledged sadhana bhakti. Maybe several occurrences of this indirect, unknowing devotional service will finally emerge this taste. And that taste will propel us to do more service. And more service means more taste. Right? So, this attraction, it's required to do pure devotional service. To enter sadhana bhakti, one needs attraction. But to acquire this Agnata Sukriti, it requires no attraction. It can happen without our knowledge or even intent. That is the beauty. And this inspires us, or it should inspire us, to think one thing. How I can give this Agnata Sukriti to somebody else. I am the beneficiary of it. My presence in devotional service, we should understand, is based on somebody engaged us, even indirectly, when we weren't willing to do it, unwillingly in service. And that seed was planted. And slowly that seed sprouted. And now there is some developing taste. And I'm interested in practicing this sadhana. So it happened to me, how I can help somebody else. You know, when we go out into the public and do Harinam Sankirtana, the holy names are entering the ears of so many living entities. And that seed is being planted if this is their first interaction. If it is their second or third, that seed is being watered and we are bringing closer to it fructifying. Yeah, we may not know. It may not happen within our vision. You know, we may go and do Harinam and say, oh, nobody is coming, nobody is benefiting. No, everybody is benefiting. Every living entity is benefiting. Because we are building that Agnata Sukriti. And so don't look for immediate results. You know, you keep watering the plant even though the seed hasn't sprouted yet. You know it's going to sprout. Like that, we keep giving. You know, distributing prasad. So much Sukriti that is. So much mercy. Even if they don't know, just giving out cookies or cakes or anything they'll find palatable. You're creating huge benefit. Any living entity that takes prasad even once is guaranteed a human form of life. That much benefit there is. So what we try to do, we try to find ways to engage as many people. Yeah, not everybody may be ready to hear about Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and its details. So what we do, we can put on even general programs with some, light Krishna consciousness, whatever way we can to attract. Feed them prasad. Feed them the holy names. Because we are planting this mercy for them. So it may take a few more lifetimes. It may happen very fast. But this seed is being planted and it is being watered. And it eventually will sprout into full-fledged. And that is why Prabhupada said one is guaranteed to success once they start. So hopefully this can inspire us. I remember when I read this, it reminded me of something, when I was a child and in my adulthood. Anytime I found any money, a coin or some dollar, whatever on the street, my father would encourage me, put it in the hundi. And I didn't know why, but now I understand why. Because that is somebody's money. It's not mine. But by putting it into the donating it to Krishna, that person is getting the benefit of having donated some of their wealth to Krishna unknowingly. and that Agnata Sukriti is started for them. Just one small example, you know. So we can see how we can help others. Yeah, they may not be ready to chant and read Bhagavad Gita yet. So indirectly we can try to help. And know that this will lead to this attraction, which will then ultimately lead to their commitment to sadhana bhakti, like all of you have taken. And it starts again by the causeless mercy of a devotee. So now the question is, how to measure our progress in devotional service. Well, one thing we should understand first and foremost, and it's related back to this Agnata Sukriti, is that whatever progress we make, it's never lost. Meaning, wherever we leave off, we pick up from again in the future. So if I've heard the holy names once, and it has been planted in my heart, and then I may go silent for long, long periods of time. The next time I come in contact, I pick up from that point and carry on forward. So in our next life, we pick up exactly where we leave off in this life. And Srila Prabhupada says, one who is not 100% complete, not to worry. So again, this Agnata Sukriti we give, it's never lost. Even though we may not see immediate results, don't be unmotivated. No, it is never lost. Right? So if we can help someone start, even in a small way, that it will carry on forward. And we see this. Sometimes we see devotees, they come, and very quickly they make progress. And it's almost like, there's a whole transformation overnight. Well, that is because there is some past building of their attraction to bhakti. And it took one more action to sprout it and have it manifest. And so that is due to all their past experiences. That is why it happens very, very fast. So this is very important. But we must also remember what can cover or check and stamp out our progress. That is Vaishnava Prad. The Hatimata. The mad elephant in the garden can trample our success. So we must be very, very mindful to avoid Vaishnava Prad. So the taste or attraction, that is our qualification to come to devotional service and remain fixed in it. So then what is the measure of our success in sadhana bhakti? It is the intensity of our taste. How strong of a taste do I have? That is the measure of my advancement in pure devotional service. So our advancement is based on this taste. And I wanted to read a couple of quotes from the Nectar of Devotion. In page 19, the second paragraph. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami suggests that the person eligible for Krishna consciousness or devotional service can be classified by his particular taste. So the classification is by one's taste, not by how straight our tilak looks, or how perfect our dhoti or sari is, or how beautifully I may sing some bhajan, or how many Sanskrit verses I have memorized, or how many years I've been in, or if I'm initiated or uninitiated. It is based on what is the intensity of my taste to hear the glories of the Lord, the intensity of my taste to chant, my intensity of taste to read, to render service. How eager am I to hear and chant and read? Am I running to the classes or am I running away? Am I running to the temple to render service or running under the shelter of excuses? That is the measure. I'll read one more quote at the end of that paragraph. Anyway, for persons who have a natural taste for understanding books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Devotional service is easier than for those who are simply accustomed to mental speculation and argumentative processes. So the more taste we have, the easier it is for us to progress. It comes naturally versus ritualistically, which can sometimes become arduous. And so next week we're going to discuss this two aspects of sadhana bhakti, and we'll see the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, where the impetus for me to practice is internal. It's external. I am practicing having some faith in the instruction of Shastra and Guru. And how to develop the internal taste, that is by moving to Raganuga Bhakti. So we'll talk about that next week. But understand that the measure of our success is a very important point. It is the intensity of our taste. The more taste we have, the easier it is for us to continue on. And it is not about any other external circumstance. So now, this sadhana bhakti. After this initial taste is developed, what to do? We begin to practice sadhana bhakti. This is the first stage. So let us understand the meaning of sadhana bhakti. This is most important for all of us, at least speaking for myself, in this sadhana bhakti realm, to understand that it is devotional service in practice. So what does practice mean? It means that we engage, we employ the mind and senses in some practical devotional service, a specific activity or work. It is a cultivation. We heard anushilanam. It is an activity. And we employ the mind and senses in practical work for Krishna. Rupa Goswami is going to give us a specific list of 64 activities in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And so we're going to come to that. But understand that devotional service in practice, it is a engaging of the mind and senses in some practical work. Currently under the guidance of Guru and Shastra. So the key point here is that practice does not mean to develop a new skill. Like I want to learn how to play tennis. I'm not an innate tennis player, but I can learn how to play tennis by some practice. But this practice, devotional service practice, is not like that. And Prabhupada guides us very clearly that the practice of sadhana bhakti, it is to bring out our innate or natural instinct of love of Krishna. Love of Krishna, Krishna prema, that is the natural intrinsic quality of every living entity. Everyone has it. And the relationship is there, and sadhana bhakti is the only means to awaken that relationship, to rekindle that loving relationship. But very importantly, it is not that the practice gives love of God. It is already there. So this love, bhakti, comes from bhakti. It is not some other practice. It is not to learn something new. So the practice is not giving it. Okay? And Prabhupada used the example of walking. A mother or father will help a child walk. But the mother and father are not giving the child the ability to walk. That ability is innate to that child. They're simply helping that child bring out its natural innate ability. Having been born in a human form, it has this innate ability to walk on two legs. And so the practice is to bring out this innate natural ability. So similarly, this sadhana bhakti is to bring out this natural dormant love of Krishna that is sitting within our heart. So the key then comes What is the key to success? We must follow a prescribed process that will evoke this love. There is a certain process that brings it out. Just like if you want to go to the gym and build a strong body, there is a very specific way in which you go to just walking around the gym is not going to create the body. You have to follow a certain process. And the trainer, the physical trainer, can teach us that process very nicely of what to do. If we try to speculate on our own what to do, that result will not happen. So sadhana bhakti means to follow a prescribed process to bring out this natural love. So these prescribed processes are the 64 angas. We'll begin discussing them in chapter 6. And Rupa Goswami says, you do these things. And just like in going into the gym, we need somebody to show us how to use the equipment. The first angas of sadhana bhakti, Rupa Goswami say, must find a spiritual master, a guru. Have faith in guru. Inquire from guru. Take initiation from guru. Render service to guru. These angas, the first 5 angas, are going to be on this topic. Because from that, then one can understand the other 59. So, it is not just any process that will work. It is a prescribed process. Just like if I have a match, within the match contains the potential for fire. But if I strike that match against a glass smooth surface, that fire will not come out. I'm striking it and striking it. Somebody's telling me, no, there's fire within it, but it's not coming. Because I'm not following the right process. But if I take that same match and strike it against a friction surface, then that fire will come out. So similarly, yes, the prema bhakti, this love of Krishna is dormant within our heart, but a specific prescribed process is what will make it emerge. So this very important verse, Srila Rupa Goswami is giving us this kriti sadhyat bhavat sadhya bhavasa saranabdida nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakritam riddha sadhyate. That, in the translation, I just wanted to read it here. When transcendental devotional service, by which love for Krishna is attained, is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti, or the regulative discharge of devotional service. Such devotion eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. I just want to read it again for emphasis. It's very nice. When transcendental devotional service, by which love for Krishna is attained, is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti, or the regulative discharge of devotional service. Such devotion eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. The awakening of this devotion is the potentiality of devotional service and practice. So, this definition of sadhana bhakti is this. It is devotional service and practice, regulated. It is carried out by the mind and senses in some practical work. And the goal is to bring out, to awaken this dormant, loving propensity, which is lying dormant within the heart. So, this is sadhana bhakti in regulated practice. And I just wanted to read, one more paragraph from the Nectar of Devotion. That every living entity under the spell of material energy is held to be in an abnormal condition of madness. In Srimad Bhagavatam it says, generally, the conditioned soul is mad because he is always engaged in activities which are the cause of bondage and suffering. The spirit soul in his original condition is joyful, blissful, eternal, and full of knowledge. Only by his implication in material activities has he become miserable temporary, and full of ignorance. This is due to vikarma. Vikarma means actions which should not be done. Therefore, we must practice sadhana bhakti, which means to offer mangalarti, deity worship in the morning, to refrain from certain activities, to offer obeisances to the spiritual master, and to follow many other rules and regulations, which will be discussed here one after another. These practices will help one become cured of madness, as a man of mental disease is cured by the directions of the psychiatrist. So this sadhana bhakti cures the conditioned soul of his madness under the spell of Maya, material illusion. It's a very beautiful paragraph Srila Prabhupada has written. Cured by the madness under the spell of Maya, as a psychiatrist cures one under mental illness. So this sadhana bhakti, it begins with devotional service and practice. And the first step is by hearing. As a sleeping man is awoken by some sound, by some noise, our dormant Krishna consciousness is awakened by the transcendental sound vibrations, by the Shravanam. The Shravanam purifies the heart, and as the heart purifies, we'll make continued progress in devotional service. So we can intensify our taste for hearing. We can give the opportunity for others to hear, and together we can make success in awakening this dormant love of Krishna. And this is the potential result of sadhana bhakti. So, what is the underlying essential principle of sadhana bhakti? To always remember him and never forget him. That is the principle, the underlying principle of all sadhana bhakti. This is the essence. That one should always remember Krishna and never forget him. All the different rules and regulations of the Shastra should be servants to these two principles. And so from the Padma Purana, Srila Rupa Goswami presents this Smartavya Satatam Vishnu or Vishmartavya Najatutit Sarva Vede Nishidyaswar Etayor Eva Kinkaraha. That Krishna is the origin of Vishnu, and he should never be forgotten and always should be remembered. And everything we see in the scriptures should be servants to these two principles. So this is the essence. As we always said, or in the beginning of this devotional service definition, that perfect instructions have do's and don'ts. So it is saying, never forget Krishna and always remember him. That is it. So this should be the foundation of our sadhana bhakti. Everything we do in sadhana bhakti is to get us to remember Krishna. All the 64 angas that we'll hear about later, they are for this goal. All the regulated processes to help us constantly remember Krishna. So that is the key. Everything that we do, the why is so that we can remember Krishna more. This is the underlying principle, the essential principle of sadhana bhakti. And what is the goal of Maya? To get us to do the exact opposite. To help us forget. While we're in the midst of our chanting, are we constantly remembering Krishna? Or constantly remembering what is on our cell phone, our to-do list? This person said this yesterday. I have to do this tomorrow. Right? So this is the goal of Maya, is to help us forget. But the goal of our sadhana is to get us to remember. Okay? So while we're offering arti to the Lord, many other thoughts will come into our mind. It is happening by the influence of Maya. So, we may be practicing our sadhana, but the essential principle of our sadhana we must remember. How much am I remembering Krishna? then it is sadhana bhakti. Right? And so we must focus on remembering Krishna while doing our service. And if we are not remembering now how to get better at it, do more. More practice. We're never perfect at anything. The first time we hit a tennis ball, we are not perfect. But by practice, we got better. So like that, by doing our sadhana bhakti and remembering this essence, we will overcome. What Maya is trying to do is get us forget. But Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Rupa Goswami are helping us, trying to remember Krishna. So when we're doing service in the temple, we should be meditating on Krishna and trying to avoid the mechanical execution of our service. Right? You know, sometimes when we read these angas in our sadhana bhakti, it feels mechanical or looks mechanical. But that is not the purpose. The purpose is to be remembering Krishna through these different processes. Okay? So that is the goal of this. And in the second chapter here of Srila Prabhupada speaks a lot about varnashram dharma and its application. Because what is he trying to do? The goal of discussing varnashram dharma is that he is saying that to be able to remember Krishna and never forget him, we need a suitable environment by which spirituality can be propagated all throughout society. And so by establishing a very nice system to organize everybody, then the possibility of this can flourish very broadly. So the goal is to create a very peaceful environment so that everyone can perform this devotional service. That is the purpose of this varnashram dharma. In and of itself, it will not lead to devotional service, but it can create the environment which is favorable for the execution of devotional service. And thus Srila Prabhupada dedicates several paragraphs to this topic. So again, this is devotional service is the practice to help us remember Krishna. And the goal of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada writes, the goal of Guru is to help each of us individually learn how to fix our mind on Krishna. Prabhupada says that the goal of Guru is to fix the disciple's mind on Krishna. You know, just like a parent tries to help a child fix his mind on doing their homework. The Guru comes and guides us in helping us fix our mind on Krishna so that we can make progress in this sadhana bhakti. And so then, in wrapping up here, what is the result? What is the fruit of sadhana bhakti? So when I'm doing sadhana bhakti, the goal, the result is advancing to bhava bhakti. Elevation to bhava bhakti and ultimately to Krishna prema. This is the result of performing our sadhana bhakti. So then this should be our goal. Why am I, chanting my rounds daily and reading devotional service and reading these books and following the instructions of Guru and, taking shelter, all these. Why am I doing all? It is to awaken this devotional service in ecstasy. And how to make this happen? It requires an intense hankering. This intense hankering must be there. It's not just a mechanical execution of our sadhana, going through the motions. But we have to develop this intense desire that I'm doing my sadhana for the purpose of purifying the heart so that I can awaken this devotional service in ecstasy. And so Rupa Goswami is then going to describe what is the symptoms and characteristics of bhava bhakti to inspire us to hope for that goal. We have already given the characteristics one achieves, this extraordinary bliss and happiness. But we must have a desire. So our sadhana should be coupled with this strong desire and hankering for it, not just a mechanical or routine approach. And that's what Srila Prabhupada always said. Our chanting should be like a child crying out to its mother. That should be the mood in order to go. And we have to have an intention. If I'm driving on the road and just driving, what am I doing? I'm not going anywhere. I have to have an intention of where I want to go. And we know that we must remember Krishna, never forget him. So attention follows intention. If I have a very firm grasp of where I'm going and driving on the road, then my attention to making the right turns and the left turns where I need to go will be very clear. I'll not miss the exit because I have a very strong intention. I want to go to the temple. So my attention in my sadhana will come. My remembering and never forgetting, that will come when I have a very firm intention, a very firm goal. And so the sadhana bhakti, the goal of sadhana bhakti is to come to bhava bhakti. And so by having a strong goal, a strong intention, attention will come. So attention follows intention. How to never forget and always remember? Have faith in this goal. So sadhana bhakti, what happens? It purifies our heart and it removes the impediments to our natural love for Krishna. It's like pulling weeds in a garden to let the plants grow nicely. And the practice makes perfect. We're not perfect in the beginning, but by continuing to practice under the guidance of Guru and Shastra, we'll become better at it. And as we purify this by this practice and develop this intense hankering, then bhava will come. So the goal again is to elevate to bhava bhakti. It happens by the practice of sadhana with this strong desire, and this love will awaken. And the key is to remembering Krishna at all times. That will help fuel the development of this fruit. Again, attention follows intention. So just in summary now, this sadhana bhakti is what evokes our dormant love. And we do it by engaging the mind and senses in some work for Krishna. That is devotional service. And everything we do with our mind and senses, never forgetting Krishna, always remembering him. And it then awakens this innate, natural, dormant, loving propensity for Krishna. And the fundamental principle is to never forget Krishna and always remember him, understanding that the measure of my success and progress is how intense is my taste. How eager am I to hear and chant and remember Krishna. And the goal is to intensify our yearning so that we can achieve this bhava bhakti. So the process of practice is for the goal of awakening this love of Krishna. And again, my measure of success is how intense I have a desire. So important not to get stuck in our daily rituals, but to get firmly cemented in our daily practice of devotional service with this yearning and hankering for elevation to bhava bhakti by constantly remembering Krishna and never forgetting him. So that is chapter 2, part 1. So we'll take any questions or comments. Discussion.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, you can go ahead, Prabhuji, afterwards. Thank you.
Prabhuji, the Agnata Sukriti is something which everyone will have, or again that has some connection with the past life.
So the Agnata Sukriti, does everyone have it, or is it connected to the past life? So everybody has pure love of Krishna within their heart. It is dormant. But the Agnata Sukriti comes to those who come in contact with the causeless mercy of a devotee. Right? So not everyone may have yet had an opportunity. And I say yet because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, chanting of the holy names in every town and village. Why? So that everybody may come in contact with this sound vibrations of the holy names and thus begin their process of bhakti. So everybody has not yet had it, and our goal is to help everybody get it, whatever part we can do. And our being situated here currently in attempting to practice sadhana bhakti means that we have had some Agnata Sukriti in some form previously. Could be in a prior life, could be in many, many prior lifetimes ago, or it could be an earlier part of our current life. That we don't know. But that initial entry into that cycle was given by some devotee to us.
Okay.
It's okay?
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dharma Pranam. Very nice lecture, Prabhuji. A couple of questions. Now, this Jnana Sukriti only I'm not a little confused about. Like you said, Prabhupada, when he was going in the flight and he's going from one place to the another, so the pilot who's driving it, he's also getting Jnana Sukriti. So I'm just kind of a little confused, and if that is the case, then that is very unconscious, right? I mean, that is not even, he's not even aware that
Yeah.
It's unknowingly, as you rightly said, it's unknowingly. Now, what about like the direct preaching when a person does, that you go to a person's house and you like giving the Bhagavad Gita. So now that person which he's receiving, is that Jnana Sukriti, or that's direct, right? Completely, as he's actually being aware of it, and there it is unconsciously. So can you kind of differentiate and make me understand what is Jnana Sukriti actually?
Yeah, so this Agnata Sukriti is this, it's the unknowing, or what we call indirect devotional service. So we indirectly engage somebody in devotional service. But it's still devotional service, but it's not with the intention to please Krishna. So it's not pure devotional service yet, right? Because there's not yet an intention. The pilot flying Prabhupada around the world doesn't have the intention to please Krishna. So but what happens is this Agnata Sukriti, this indirect or unknowingly rendering devotional service, it builds. That service is not useless. It's still remembered by Krishna. It's progress. And that will build and build and build. And it may take many such activities before then one becomes inspired, because there's some taste, to then actually knowingly practice. So it matures into sadhana bhakti, actually knowingly practicing bhakti. So the example might be that we invite people to our home for some gathering. We don't tell them it's a spiritual gathering, but we invite them into our home. And we feed them prasad. And on the background we have Prabhupada Kirtan going. They're getting great, great benefit. Even though they're not coming for that. By honoring prasad, they're doing devotional service. By hearing the transcendental sound vibrations, they're getting this sukriti. And slowly, after inviting them many times, you may then say, let's read one Bhagavad Gita verse. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds interesting. Now there's some attraction, taste. And that can then manifest. Now they're entering the realm of devotional service. Because their taste has said, yes, I want to hear. That's devotional service. Right? So, but it was that Agnata Sukriti building in time that then inspired that desire. And some, you can just go to them on the street and say, read this Bhagavad Gita. And yes, I want to read it. And they start reading it and they start practicing immediately. Well, that is because they'd had some prior Agnata Sukriti built up. And that action of giving them the Bhagavad Gita has ignited it. Others, they may take it and put it in their house and never read it. But still they're getting benefit. Because they have brought Krishna into their home. But they don't know it. Unknowingly, they have brought Krishna into their home. Right? So, the Sukriti builds to the point where the taste then leads to direct service. And that's when it... So, once the intention is there to render service, that's when we enter the realm of sadhana bhakti. Is it okay? Or I can...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You have a follow-up question?
Yeah, Prabhuji, so basically what you're saying, like, for example, when you're giving the Bhagavad Gita and if the person is not with the intention to read at that point of time, but they're just keeping the house, so that is unknowingly they have received a mercy, so that is in a form of Jnana Sukriti, correct? Like they are not going to use it at that point of time, but they're keeping it. So will that unknowingly mercy, so that. But at the same time, when you said that they have this desire to read it instantly, so that means that they had the Jnana Sukriti before, which is now built up and now is ready to be ignited, and now they're going to come with the process of sadhana bhakti.
Yes, and that is why when we go out for book distribution, we don't measure success by how many, people begin, coming to the Bhakti Vriksha next week. Because everything is success. If they just hear the word Bhagavad Gita and you put it in their hand and they touch the book, that is success. If they take the book, that is success. If they read the book, that is the best success. But it's all success. Why? Because something is happening. Maybe it's their first instance of Agnata Sukriti. Or maybe it's a second, third. Maybe it's, you're bringing them that much closer to ultimately awakening their love of Krishna. It's all success. If we understand this, this will inspire us to finish this class and go out and give out books, even if nobody takes it. Just hearing Bhagavad Gita, seeing a picture of Krishna on the cover with Arjuna. Wow, they have seen Krishna once. Someday, it will sprout. And that's why Prabhupada keeps saying, they'll eventually be dragged to success. So our goal is just to start it. And who knows, you might come into somebody who has had to build up and immediately they start. And I remember your specific instance. You came to a Rath Yatra program with no intention. But something you experienced inspired it, and the following week you came. That's because you had some prior Agnata Sukriti. Okay? And that's what inspires us to spread this message as far and wide as possible. We are doing direct service by spreading it, by helping others increase their Agnata Sukriti. And we're helping them, even if we may not see the result. So don't look for tangible results. Of course, that is our goal, but don't be, unmotivated if we don't see it immediately. No, there is a result happening deep within the heart. It's there. It's okay?
See, this is so inspiring. This, I'm not aware. Like, we keep sending messages to, right? Nobody's response and, nobody comes. But actually, maybe unconsciously people are reading it.
Yes.
There's something there, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
It's not disheartening, and it's really...
No.
It's good to know.
And that's why Lord Jagannath comes out of the temple to engage so many people. The one very great pastime, Srila Prabhupada, he got out of the car, I don't remember which Rath Yatra it was, and, some just stranger on the street somehow came into association with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada grabbed his hand and said, you hold on to this rope and don't let go. And this person, I mean, he was just, came off the street. And he carried the rope and he heard the message and he didn't let go until he reached the site. The whole way he carried. He ultimately became a very great devotee. Okay? So, these Rath Yatra festivals, we go out and we give out flyers. They may not come, but they see Lord Jagannath on the flyer. Their devotional service has begun. They have taken darshan of the Lord. Even if they don't come, success starts with every flyer that's distributed. And if they come, even more. If they pulled a rope, even more. They honor prasad, hear the holy names. So, what's our motivation to invite as many and everybody possible to all these functions, but particularly these things like Rath Yatra, because they're so broad and mass appealing. Anyone can come and enjoy. Coming to a Bhakti Vriksha, maybe you have to have, a little bit more, interest and taste. So if they're not quite ready there, then we do these other festivals. And I'm glad you used the word, it's very inspiring. Yes, that is the point. That, we can become inspired to spread this message far and wide.
Sorry, I'm just asking so many questions. So Ajnana Sukriti is actually a beginning, you can say, of devotional service, you said, like right now.
It will,
beginning.
Yeah, it will, again, is devotional service ultimately, it'll lead to the active devotional service. Because when we unknowingly do something, it's not yet pure devotional service, but it will mature into that, surely. Because Krishna takes it as service, and there's some level of purification that occurs that will ultimately allow this dormant love of Krishna to slowly emerge.
Okay, next question I had was a sadhana bhakti. When you gave the definition, you repeated it 2 times. So there somewhere it was mentioned that this transcendental devotional service is actually leading to Krishna prema. But actually this is like the Bhava Bhakti is not even started there. So how the Krishna prema is coming there right now?
Because Krishna prema comes, so sadhana bhakti, the potentiality of sadhana bhakti is to awaken our dormant love for Krishna. That's what the verse said. Prakritam hridaya siddhyate. It is lying dormant in the heart. So, but we just said, well, wait a minute. Bhava bhakti comes after sadhana bhakti, not prema bhakti. But bhava bhakti is the budding stage of prema bhakti. So once one reaches bhava bhakti, prema bhakti is right behind the corner. So the big step is from sadhana bhakti to bhava bhakti. From bhava bhakti to prema bhakti, it happens, we can say, automatically. Just like when a flower buds, we know then it will soon bloom. It has come to the budding stage. So bhava bhakti is the budding stage of Krishna prema. So that is why in this verse we say that the potential of sadhana bhakti is to awaken our dormant love. Is Krishna prema. But there is an intermittent step, but those are really connected very tightly. So, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Bhaji.
Prabhu, so I'm just going back to the very beginning of the class where you gave a comment about how Krishna could be trying to see how our position is formed in devotion or not. So I was just thinking that it's pretty easy when we have a choice to make, which is like, hey, can I go to movie or can I go to temple? It's easy to choose, okay, I'm choosing Krishna when I'm going to temple maybe. But what about opportunities, or let's say if I get $1 million, how will I know if Krishna is trying to allure me or trying to test me or what is it? How can I address that situation?
Well, the situation is that one is using all of the facilities in the service of the Lord. That is first and foremost. So, if Krishna brings us in the midst of wealth, is he testing my purity or not? We can understand that it is by his great mercy that it has happened. And our responsibility is to use it in his service. And we'll do so under the guidance of Guru, who will guide us how to do that. But the specific tests I was speaking of in terms of this, purity, if you read this Brihad Bhagavatamrita that's presented by Srila Sanatana Goswami, we see Gopakumar as he's progressing within the different lokas of Vaikuntha. He is met with so many wonderful circumstances. But he specifically is looking for one thing. He is looking for Krishna. But when we see Lord Vishnu or we see these things, are we going to know? Are we going to be able to distinguish? So specifically, we are looking for Krishna with a flute and peacock feather. Right? Those are the unique quality of Krishna, is his flute, his vena. So, the test that will come ultimately to all of us, as this jiva is liberated and moves through, is, do you want to come here? Do you want to come here? 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 All these options will be presented. And it's up to us. But if we know what I am looking for, then one will have firm conviction and not be tempted by some of these other tests. So that's the ultimate test. So in order to have that, we have to understand, well, what is in all these different places? What are my opportunities? Where is my attraction, right? And Gopakumar had this very specific desire because he had experience in pure devotional service. So that's the ultimate test. You are speaking of a more intermittent test within the material world as we face different circumstances, like coming in cost of wealth. Is Krishna testing us? Are we going to fall entrapped with that wealth or not? Yeah, maybe not. That may not be a direct test, but we should view that as a test of our maturity in devotional service. And by remaining in good association, following the instructions of Guru, we'll be sure to know what to do in that circumstance and how to use it in the service of Krishna. And Rupa Goswami is going to present this in the coming chapters about the, real renunciation, this vairagya. So, is that okay, Prabhu? I'm not sure if I directly answered the question, so if I didn't, maybe you can.
I got the answer, bro.
You got it? Okay. Okay. So, any other comments or discussion? Okay, so if not, next week we'll discuss the second part of chapter 2, and next week we're going to discuss this Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. There are actually two divisions within Sadhana Bhakti, and we'll discuss the characteristics of each, and that will further enlighten us and set as a goal and an intention for our Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So a very important discussion we'll have. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.